Fellow Nigerians, in the last couple of days when my video went viral, and of course it didn't go viral because what I said was that, entertaining, so to say. It went viral because it is a representation of the frustration of Nigerians. Nigerians are extremely very tired of bad governance since 2015, most especially. I have received threats, death threats, and all manner of warnings from everywhere. But I'm not backing down. And Nigerians, today, I'll share with you my story. And that's the major reason why I am not backing down. I was born when Muhammadu Buhari was the head of state of Nigeria. March 29, 1985. About 5 months after, on August 27, 1985, Babangida took over. He took up the title of the president and was the military president of Nigeria. My father was a soldier, so I grew up in the barracks, and I understood what it meant to be ruled by the military because I was living in the barracks. Something happened between my dad and my mom, and they broke up when I was just 4 years old. I didn't get to see my mother until I was 34. All my life, I've grown up on the streets, and I'll tell you why. Because in 1991, my father's name was drafted amongst the soldiers going for peacekeeping, and in 1992, he left. And for him leaving, he knew that he could die at war. That's in Liberia and Sierra Leone. So he brought myself and my older brother to live with my grandmother, who was at the time very old. We were about 26 of us grandchildren living in my grandmother's place. I came from a background that exposed me as a child to all manner of social vices. And at the age of 8, I started begging for food and for money so that I could survive. In 1995, I had begged for 3 years at the age of 10. Just by a whisker, my father was shot in Sierra Leone. Then you remember the letter we sent to him in 1994 to the military that were going there. And that was how he was able to send us money, with which I was put into secondary school, with no hope of a second-term school fees to be paid. I remember my uncle trying to tell me not to waste that money, not to allow the family to waste the money, that I should just continue learning mechanic that I was learning, I was learning how to repair generator. And I said to him, no, sir, I want to go to school. He now said, but what if we are unable to pay your school fees? Because I can assure you we cannot. I told him, at least my father went to primary school. When he dropped out of primary school, I will be able to tell my children that I went to secondary school a step further than my father. And I said to him that if they were unable to pay my school fees, I would gladly drop out, then come back and happily learn the mechanic. But of course, I would have fulfilled my mission of breaking my father's record of being in secondary school. Of course, the suffering didn't stop. My family, they were not bad people. They were just poor people. There were no systems that could help them to become successful. They were very hardworking. My uncles, my aunties, they were very hardworking people, but they just couldn't help it. They had a lot of children, and they were also managing. So I was left as a child scavenging for survival. And that's why I still love them till tomorrow. Because the suffering I went through was not by their own making, because they were also suffering, going by their living standards. And of course, in 1996, when I was just 11 years old, I was begging on the street when one of the college students who I begged from insulted me and called me a nuisance. And of course, I said, I am not a nuisance. You cannot call me a nuisance. I know what nuisance means. And that was the beginning of what led to the transformation of my life. He was so shocked that I could speak English. So it took me on a bike, 1996. He took me to a youth center and he said, please do not beg on the street anymore. You could be corrupted. For an 11-year-old boy like you that could speak this well, it shows that you are a boy that have a future. So he pointed to a youth center for me, and he said that you can beg in this place. Himself, his friend, and 2 of their girlfriends gave me the biggest money of my begging career as a child. He gave me 20 naira. His friend gave me 10 naira. The other girlfriend gave me 5 naira in tears, and the other one gave me 1 naira. So I raised 36 naira in 1996, which is still the biggest record of my begging career. So I begged 1993, 94, 95, and 96. So I got into the youth center, and that was when everything changed. It was at the youth center that I discovered about self-esteem. It was at the youth center I discovered about purpose. It was at the youth center I discovered that no matter how bad my background was, I could actually restructure my life by my own making. I learned speech making. I learned acting. I met great people through the project. Professor Adenike Green, she's still very much alive. She was the head of the project at the time. Dorothy Akenova. I'm mentioning names so that you can only trace on them. These are great women that actually raised me. Looking back at how my life has turned out, because in 2001, I became the UN Ambassador for African Youth and Children, where I had an opportunity of meeting the American president. And for me, the biggest miracle of my life is not how many countries I've been to or the records I've set at the international level when I became the UN Ambassador for African Youth and Children. It's not even the money I have now. The miracle for me is the change of my mindset. Is that switch from a boy who had no hope to someone who became so confident of his future, to someone who was able to build a very sound character because there was a youth center. The youth center helped me to appreciate my grandmother, from whom I learned a lot of stuff about character, and my uncles and my aunt. The youth center helped me to understand the power of family. And today I have one of the strongest families that I've built, and I have good connections with my family members that raised me, doing whatever help I can, in whatever capacity I can. That is actually the miracle. And this could not have happened without the youth center. So in 2001, I saw the collapse of youth centers across the country because corruption was taking over the civil society. And I said to myself that there's going to be a huge calamity. In a speech I made in a dinner of Hope Worldwide in 2002, December 7 precisely, I said, eminent Nigerians were seated. We were to raise funds for children that were affected by HIV/AIDS, whose parents have died, or parents are still living HIV/AIDS, or are vulnerable to HIV and AIDS. And I said that do not take this trying to raise money for these kids as you are helping them. Take it as you are helping yourselves and your children. Because imagine if someone like me was not educated. Imagine if someone like me was not helped by a youth center. I would become a terror of the society. I want that we have to intensify grassroots revitalization. I want that we have to reach young people across the country. I want that there would be a lot of calamity in the future, because I was speaking from experience. If there was no youth center, what would Abayomi might have become? And that is why I'm standing today fighting for Nigerians. A lot of my friends who claim they were fighting for the youth are falling by the wayside. Some of the strongest supporters of the failed president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, are people we used to work together to bring development to our dear communities. It is sad to see how times have changed them, and how shall I say, heart desires or whatever they were looking for have changed them into what they are today, because I can barely recognize these people. I'm standing here today, Nigerians, to tell you that I am not one of those youth that is seeking clout. I am a product of a broken system that had been made strong in character because of a youth center. If there was no youth center, I'm not sure of what I would have become today. So I want you Nigerians to understand clearly that amongst all those voices out there, mine is not for sale. And that's why I'm telling you, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you are a one-term president. I swear to you by the blood of innocent young people who have been wasted. I swear to you, by the innocent lives that have been destroyed by criminals who could not have been criminals if only there had been programs that could rescue them when they were vulnerable children. I swear to you, by the lives of wasted, smart young people who had died on the streets due to drug abuse, aborted pregnancies, and all kinds of social menace, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you are not coming back. We will not vote for you, sir. We will stop you next year. This killing will stop, and good people will be in charge of this country. And the revolution is starting now. So Nigerians, get this straight. My name is Abayomi Rotimi Mighty. I have a lot to tell Nigerians. I understand this system. And I'm saying that the only hope we have is to stand up next year and vote this man out and block all their corruption and make it difficult for them to cheat us again. Well, the person that is closest to defeating you is Peter Obi. And we are going to stand with him. The people stand with Peter Obi. And we are going to vote you out. And it's going to be a new country in 2027. Nigerians, be strong. This is not a joke. We will vote Tinubu out. We will vote APC out. And of course, as much as I'm taken by my emotions, it still doesn't change the fact that impossible is dead. Because I came from no background. And here I am, wealthy, highly connected, internationally, and very hopeful of the future. And also ready to take out these people. President Tinubu, we will stop you next year. The only way you can win this election is by rigging. And we will stop that rigging. We will count our vote. We will defend our vote. And of course, we are going to rejoice because it will be a new day. And I believe that Peter Obi will not fail Nigerians. Impossible is dead.